Hello, team.
Hello again.
Hello
Hello,
again.
Sage. Long time no see.
I know, it's been like, a minute.
The Thursday meeting gauntlet.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm so nice I scheduled another one after this for Sage and me.
It's okay. Sometimes I will like block Thursday, like an hour just to get a break or like, eat.
Yeah, I found out if I don't eat breakfast on Thursdays, I don't get to eat till like 3 p.m.
Right? It's like, that's not going to work out.
Yeah. So I definitely, during the open hour, almost spilled sparkling water everywhere. I went to pick it up and it slipped out of my hand and it
That's
splashed
funny.
like on my desk. And I'm like, okay. So I'm trying to like clean it out subtly.
Oh, man.
I figure I was like all organized for the open hour this week. Everything was ready. And then I spill sparkling water everywhere.
It's why I turn my camera off sometimes. Okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like I have children and dogs and whatever. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll just turn that off.
I mean, I'm in favor of dogs in meetings, but
I am too, but
I was in my scholarship meeting a little bit ago, and one of the dogs had like it got a tissue or something, and one of the girls in the meeting said, "Is your puppy eating a tissue?" And I was like, I didn't even realize that little brat. I don't know how he got it. So
I have a dog that eats tissues sometimes, and I'm always
Yep.
like, so what is this? What are you doing?
yeah,
Like, of
It's a
all
funny
the items in the house, why the Kleenex?
I don't
You
know.
I don't know.
And like, he actually hasn't
Socks.
done it in a long time. And he'll do a shoe or a sock sometimes, especially like a slipper that looks like a dog toy. Like the
Mhm.
slipper has like a, an animal on it or something. He's like, this is a dog toy. And I'm like, it's actually not. Thank you.
So do your dogs hide it in the same spot pretty much every single time when they take a shit or something, or
No, mine don't.
no?
My dogs aren't that smart. So it's true. Although one of my dogs will take toys from the other dog and she takes it to her kennel. So she kind of does, but she's just a stealer. That's her thing.
But they're not reciprocal. Like the minute one of mine has a toy, the other wants the toy, even if I have two of the exact same toy.
Yes. And for me, it's always the one dog always wants the other dog's toy, but not the other way around.
Oh, okay. No,
Right.
These two both always want each other's.
Yeah. And they'll play, but I don't know. They're silly. They have their own little personalities.
Yeah. These two, I'm looking, they're both passed out under my desk.
How's everybody doing?
Good.
Good. I am a few hours away from vacation, so I'm doing very good.
All right.
Yay.
Yeah. I was supposed to go camping with my family back in July, and the concert was canceled and all this other stuff happened, and then it was release week, so I just completely canceled it. So we're doing a makeup this weekend and going to surprise my mom at her campground. So
that's cool. So just for the weekend?
Yeah, I leave Saturday and then come back Tuesday.
That'll be fun.
Yeah, so just a few days to just go somewhere that's not my house.
Yeah, that's always good.
Yep.
What part of Ohio are you in again?
I'm in Columbus.
Okay, I just got back from Cleveland. So
Oh, like Cleveland or a suburb?
like a suburb of Cleveland. So
Okay.
yeah.
I'm from the Cleveland area originally. I'm from west of Cleveland, a little town
nice.
called Vermilion.
Yeah, it rained a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it was really pretty.
Yeah, Lake Erie can be pretty.
Totally. Are we ready to get going?
Yeah.
Sure.
Let's do it.
All right.
All right. So when it comes to agenda items, I think one of the things we wanted to talk about today, actually, let me bring up the Docs Hub. that we were actually going to talk about a change in relation to the tentative dates associated with the Docs Jam / Docs Clinic things that we were planning on doing initially.
Yeah, so just something to think about with that. I think that we've had a number of things come up that's really impacting you guys, and so to move it is fine. And I think it's okay to do it at the end of a release cycle, like we're talking about, just making sure that people are aware that, so number one, I will be pretty busy during that time, so it'd be hard for me to participate too much, but I don't think that that matters. It's a community event. You've got Cassandra, this team, that's fine. And hopefully we get more community members that are excited about that and want to give their use cases. And then we could just see those PRs be merged in for the next release cycle. I think as long as we say that up front, that's fine. You probably won't have as many people engaged from the core team because of where it will be in the cycle, although you may. And so it's just so you guys are aware and we say that, I think that's fine. Totally good.
Yeah, the timing's not set in stone if we're not trying to get it into magnesium. I would just like the event to happen before magnesium is released, since we said it wasn't an MVP, it wasn't something that we put really in place, but it's something that we've been talking about enough that I'd like it to actually happen.
Yeah, and so to kind of cross-reference just a little bit, I did start a spreadsheet for the 526 modules that are in SALT. It's kind of a large number. To start, like, I was going to do a voting, but I actually just decided to just put it out there and be like, why don't people just start telling me things that they think are core to SALT? And then from there, we can take that as well. I think I shared it with both you, Derek and Elisa, and everybody that's on this call so far, that we can kind of look at that and then make our own or refer to it in a spreadsheet or whatever it is that we want to do as we go forward with use cases, and then seeing where things are supported with the Docs Jam. And I think that'll be, that's going to be a good intersection between some things that we want to do with modules on the core team and some use cases that you guys are going to get out of the Docs Jam. So something that came up in the last hour is how people will give us those ideas. So if they have a use case that they want to submit for this Docs Jam, and I think that could be really simple, like send us an email to docs@saltstack.com or something like that. That something super simple, or to put in a ticket maybe into the Docs Hub repo. I think there's a lot of different ways we could go there. So I'm open to how you guys want to work that, but I do think that we did get people excited in the last hour apparently. And so yay, but also we probably need to communicate that and how we're going to do it, because I think people will remember and want to know.
And the guy who's excited is a new contributor that I just saw appear for the first time last week during the PR Jam. So
yeah,
now's the time to get him engaged and keep him.
Yeah, and so as people come in new to the project, they are usually really looking at the documentation, and so they give us that like new user, persona view, and I'd love to capture that more so. I think that we get complacent as we have been on the project for years and years about where things live within the project or within the docs and things, and they just bring that fresh perspective back to us. It's invaluable. Yeah, do you have a preference?
That was a lot. Can I get we were floating October 7th, and you were going to be on PTO on that day, right? Sage.
Yep.
But so do we still like the October 7th, or?
I think that's fine.
Yeah.
Were you guys going to do the clinic sort of the week before, and that's kind of setting up if you wanted to contribute to docs? Was that the theme?
Yeah, that's a good question on the Docs Clinic. And I think it should be, I suppose would it be something like, here's a case where you're looking at a piece of documentation and you'd like to open an issue. and kind of the best way to do it. Or here's, because I already know of one issue that I haven't opened, in particular related to a module. And so I could do that. And because all it is formatting. I have like a formatting issue.
Yeah.
RST formatting. And then also, I suppose, getting yourself up to contribute a PR. What are the steps to getting the repo, making sure you have you're set up for signing commits, and where you would find module documentation, where you would find topic documentation, and kind of what the difference is between them.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to go. I think that I wouldn't do any further back from a week. And really, I would, after doing the port jam with the community, I would say doing it as close as we can to the docs jam is probably the best idea. And maybe a week is really the best time frame. So you tell me. It's fresh is the only thing. And then we can do a brief, like if you decide to do it the week before, which I think is the 30th, then just doing a short refresh, and we could record that clinic and say, if you're having more trouble, or if you want to see what we did last week, here's the link, and here's some, some steps, and go through that. I think that's fine, but I wouldn't do it any further, further away from the doc jam than a week. Just from experience.
No, I think that makes sense. And then that also means that it would, how are we going to plan on doing the docs clinic? Because historically, for certain clinics, like what Wayne's been doing with the test clinic, is that it's also streaming to Twitch. And then it would be set up on there so that, and it stays on Twitch for like a month or
while.
So, long enough that it's referenceable during a
week later.
For a week later. But I did think that it would be maybe ideal to also have it on our YouTube channel, so that it doesn't simply disappear and fall back to that idea of needing to reteach people or something.
Yeah, a lot of Twitch streamers, whatever their genre is of why they're on there, a lot of them have a YouTube channel that they have a script that auto grabs the Twitch videos that are made and puts them straight to YouTube. Mm-hmm. And that way it doesn't require any manual labor, but it's always there and you can reference it later.
Mm-hmm. I think logistically we haven't gotten everybody trained on the integration with it between Twitch and Zoom, and that's something that we would probably want to do here. Even I'm not trained on it, and I think it's actually pretty simple, and I just haven't done it. But the clinics are also new, so Wayne started doing these test clinics as like, hey, well, I'm just going to start putting some time up, and let's start doing this. And so it's still pretty new. We're still kind of figuring it out, what we do and how we do it. So I think that I think that you can kind of go with it and see how it works out. I think that some of the details of things that maybe don't go right, that's okay. We'll figure that out and we'll iterate on it.
And maybe either Cassandra or Wayne could help with the hosting of the video and the stream. So that I'm not, trying to figure out how to properly get all that figured out.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, no, I can handle, I'm kind of our default stream handler person as far as, really the biggest thing is that so Zoom only integrates with Twitch from a Zoom premium account. And so anything that we want to stream across Twitch has to be hosted on my Zoom account. But documentation is the work group that I think I'm going to be spending the most time with anyway. So
I know that we're not particularly excited to expand tool sets, but if we don't want to pay for the premium Zoom, it is pretty easy to set up using free software to stream to Twitch. I'm on Ubuntu and I use a software called OBS, and that's pretty flawless in getting to work with Twitch.
Yep.
I think we have a lot of people that kind of expect us to do Zoom though, so it's just a little bit of a transition to And I just don't know if that now is the right time to do that. I guess I'm not really sure. You guys tell me. The integration, so there's a few of us that have pro accounts with Zoom already that the company has provided us, so we can do some of that as we transition, but I would love to set it up so that we're also just automatically, the Twitch stream that we've recorded through Twitch is just uploading to YouTube. It'd be nice to have some of that stuff done. And I kind of get the impression that we still have people on both platforms. Isn't that what you think, Cassandra?
Yeah. My only concern is if we did automatic uploads, like when I upload the videos, I generally cut out some of the banter at the beginning and the dead air. And I don't know how easily you can do that in Twitch. Oh, but I do have, Mo and I talked about this. This is kind of a squirrel, but he knows of a service where you pay people like a few dollars per video and they do basic editing and posting for you. So he's looking into that for us.
Again, I'm not sure that's actually necessary. I know that we're going for a high level of professionalism, but there's generally an accepted level of, here's your YouTube channel for these are professional photos, professional videos, and these are well made and polished. And then there's usually a second YouTube channel or a second pile of videos that is recognized as, these are streams. This is like you're going hunting for information. You can dive in there. We didn't touch it. We just put it out there so you can work for it.
Cool.
Because we have to keep down the amount of man hours we have to contribute or the amount of money. And this is one of those things where naturally online people are okay with this. They understand it.
Could be like a playlist associated with the account, or the playlist is specifically the Twitch streams. Or
yeah, I'm thinking in particular of one Twitch stream that got a little political at the beginning. And it was people all on one side of the political spectrum kind of complaining about the other side, and it was all friendly, but I'm like, I don't really want that out there because the company doesn't take a political stance. So,
yeah, they're again kind of useless information, but a good example of what you're going for is there's a famous, I guess his name, he's technically a YouTuber, and Soviet Wombo. He puts out really funny, hilarious videos. They're well polished and all that on YouTube, but he also streams on Twitch, and then those videos are copied to YouTube, and he makes it very clear he doesn't care about any of this political stuff. He puts it on there so that the people that want to see stuff can, and it doesn't matter where you go. So yeah, you can definitely take that and do that.
Yeah, I think we can even do that within the YouTube channel to make it so that if it's like a playlist, it even, when it uploads it, it comes with that sort of disclaimer and and sort of like a template form. And it'd be great if we could just have that there, and also, you know, use the automation so we're not doing too much work. It's a great idea.
So just to capture what it sounds like we've landed on, is that Wednesday, September 30th will be the first Docs Clinic, and Wednesday, October 7th will be the Docs Jam. I want to just really quickly, before we officially lock on to October 7th, say, I know that the magnesium release is October 21st. My one question I just have is if Sage, for example, is really busy in the weeks leading up to the release, I don't know, will members of the core SALT team be available to help man the documentation Zoom breakout rooms? Because we've decided we'll generally need at least 4 people at a time. And I suppose I just want to make sure that we're not going to be overburdening the core SALT team or asking them to help us out and sign up for like an hour or two to help us with the Docs Jam if they're going to be super stressed working on magnesium.
And to add to that too, yeah, I know that we kind of were planning this as though there was going to be significant core presence and contribution because of a lot of the documentation and modules that maybe are just outdated, that are related to PRs that have been gone in through over time. Because we could always delay this if it would be better to post magnesium release to get one.
I think that we could get a few key people, especially for like breakout rooms and things like that, and to make sure that people are on. So my understanding though is that right now it's going to be only a day. Is that correct? So I think that's fine. That's easier to do because we're talking about maybe a couple of hours out of one day for the core team.
It would just be like maybe 1 or 2 hours broken up or something like
Yep.
that. So,
And we're not totally into, we'll actually be in the RC process, so they'll be fixing bugs. So I definitely think that we will have some people that are going to be busier than others. But if we communicate it to them now and we say, hey, we just want an hour of your time to do this, or 2, that will be fine. And then we should have some backups. And I can help you guys with that.
it's also the kind of thing where they might have a lot of dead space in between talking, and so they'll be able to maybe work in the background or something like that.
Exactly. And so usually it's not a huge burden. And I actually think that time frame, like, that's going to be a good time, because we'll know about some of the bugs that are in the RC package, and they'll be working on them, but it'll be a slower time, a little bit for the core team, where they're kind of like, okay, so I'm going to start thinking about the next release cycle, and I probably don't have anything that I'm working on that I'm like trying to get in. We should be out of like that fire phase. We should be, because we've gotten to code freeze or code chill as we get into the RC process. But there will be some people that will be busier. So anybody who's packaging, anybody who is testing, myself with the release, those people will be just a little bit busier. And so we'll probably look towards people like Wayne, Megan, Gareth, DWAS, and even, Tyler, and anybody in the R&D squad, and those guys too. And I think that there's a lot of people that we can look towards, where it's a day and do an hour or 2. I think we'll be good with a couple people per hour.
Cool. Okay. I just wanted to make sure, just in case.
Yeah.
So,
Just it's my birthday that day, so I'm not coming to work.
I understand. And you're going to be 120, is that right?
Yes, that's what Google tells me, because I put in no year. So apparently that's 1900. So whatever.
Well, happy 120th. I hope to be 120 someday.
Oh, I've been 29 for years. It's been a fantastic decade.
29 going on 120. So.
For the Docs Jam, kind of what we're talking logistics, do we want this to be like an 8-hour event, like we did with the PR Jam? We did 8 to 4 Mountain. No. Yeah. 8 to 4 Mountain is what we did for this.
We got a good in and out of people during an 8-hour.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that worked out. What's your assessment of that, Cassandra, since you were in all 3 days too?
Same. I like that. The nice thing about starting that early, it kind of maybe sucks for West Coasters who wanted to be there right away, but it was nice because we managed to pull in several of our European users.
Yeah, which I think is great. I think that being able to span that is key.
So then in that case, maybe we'll just break it down into 2-hour shifts like we did with the PR Jam. And so.
Yeah, something that I was thinking about that I actually didn't mention during the retro, and it just escaped me, is that we could do a break and do 2 4-hour chunks. And because I know that I get some Zoom fatigue for an 8-hour jam too, and that might be nice,
I was happy to have Zoom running for so many hours for so many days. That kept my extrovert batteries charged. Just
those of us that are introverts need a break.
Yeah. So
the rest of us will step away while you continue.
Right. You can just continue. That's your bag. Go ahead.
There were times when it was only me in the room, and at one point we just put on music. But
I actually thought that was great. And if that's great for you, awesome. I know that sometimes if we do like an hour break, we also just get more people because we've now expanded it again. But cool. I think it worked great to do an 8-hour chunk, so totally fine.
I like the idea of having a lunch break in there, or a time that I can just go away from my computer.
Yeah.
So we do 8 to 5 Mountain, which is 10 to 7 Eastern.
Yeah, and you want to do like even a 30-minute, 45-minute break, and then do the chunks on the side. I think is fine. Whatever you guys want to do.
We'll do that.
Cool.
All right, so 8 to 5, October 7th, the Docs Clinic.
And how do we want them to submit their use cases?
Yes, how do we want people to submit their use cases?
Simple.
So I dropped in my very, very rough draft that I committed to in our last meeting. Is it all right if I share my screen?
Yeah.
We can use this to kind of brainstorm a little bit, I suppose. So I know that we had a Slack conversation about this, but first off, I wanted to ask, what are we going to do to say thank you to people who are participating again?
Yeah, are you able to, Cassandra, do something like we did for the PR Jam and do some swag? Or a
Absolutely.
Okay,
coupon or
so
something?
what is there something I'd like to, I mean, I don't know if you even said anything about that. I don't necessarily have to have this sentence in there, but do you want me to, should we just leave it out for now, that we're going to thank people for their contributions, or?
I'm trying to think of the best way to share. So I announced it from the beginning as we were
Mhm.
announcing this event that people would participate would get a swag package from the Salt Stack store. I
Okay.
actually put a slide together for that in the opening slides that showed a picture of
Oh.
all the different goodies people get, so we can reuse a slide deck, we can reuse that slide.
If we have notebooks, they should definitely get a notebook.
I do love the notebooks.
Ooh, do we have notebooks? Because we might change it then. I'm gonna
Say
look
I
right
have no
now.
idea. Are they on the
Especially
store?
considering this is a documentation jam, so it's people who like to write.
We do
That's
not
funny.
have
I
notebooks.
totally didn't make that. I didn't make that connection.
It's fair.
I did.
I didn't.
Um, We don't have notebooks, it looks like.
Oh, we used
So-
to, I have a Salt Stack notebook. Where did I get it from? It's just not
I
on the
think that-
store, I guess.
Yeah, it's the swag that we get as employees, I think. And so it's something that probably Brooke has. So it would be not part of the store stuff, I guess. And they kind of come and go. I don't know how often we have them.
Yeah,
I don't know if we got them regularly.
when I first started, I got this one.
A small one. Mhm.
Yeah, and then the last
And
one.
then
they
we have
gave
the
us,
big
like,
one.
big honking one. I like.
Yeah, got this
Personally, I'm a
nice-
huge fan of this one.
Yeah, they're like the moleskin. You guys can't see them. And they're nice. Yeah.
Hey, that would be kind of cool. That it would also be then exclusive to the Docs PR Jam if
That
that's
would
the only
be.
way they could get it.
That's
That'd
true.
be cool.
I can talk to marketing and see if we can get that swag. I know what my swag giveaway budget is, and the Docs Jam is smaller, so I can do that.
Okay, so I'll put you down as an action item for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, any swag related stuff I'll handle with Janae. But Janae is
Sounds
in
good.
Black Hat World, so I can't, or Red Hat World, whatever, so I can't talk to her till next week.
Okay.
I think it's it might be Black Hat this time. It's one of those
Black-
color hats.
I think it's
I
Black
don't know.
That's okay.
Purple
I know, it's like red hat,
Red Hat,
Whatever.
Black Hat.
black hat. I know, I was like, I don't know this one. It's okay. Oh,
So
black hat.
I hadn't, as I was starting to fill this out, I realized I really didn't know what the steps are, the logistical steps are going to be to participate. So I figured, I guess the first thing we would tell them to do would be to join our Zoom call, and get kind of introduced that way. Then we had a survey we were going to have them take. Is that right?
That's
That's what
right.
I had in my
forgot
notes for
about
last
that.
time. Yeah.
And were we just going to ask them about like just a quick survey? And I can't remember, it was something like 3 questions. And we were going to ask them like, how do you use salt? So we kind of got a persona around them. And
Yeah.
then a couple of modules that they use and a couple of use cases sort of around that. Is that what it was?
Yeah, I think that's what it was, is that we wanted to get an idea of what are their most used modules. And if they, like, that's one other way of getting them to tell us how they use those modules, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think that's a great idea.
yeah, okay. So they can take that survey. Does somebody have an action item for that survey, for building it out or driving that?
I don't think so. And I think that we have a couple of options there for surveys to use. I would probably just use the Google Forms.
Google Form?
Mhm. So 526 modules is a lot, but we could refer them, I guess, to the subdirectory. I kind of thought we'd just be really simple. And so that's what I wanted to say was we could probably put that survey out soon, and that's how we can gather information and people can submit. So I think that's a good way to go. And
Okay, so not even do it on Docs Jam Day, but even do it ahead of time to give us an
I think so.
idea. Okay, that's
Mhm.
not a bad idea. So then it won't be part of the Docs Jam. We can take it out here, but maybe send that out beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because we can then periodically put it into like Slack channels or even bring up the survey in the open hour to get
Yep.
kind of people to go take a look and give some feedback.
What we could do, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I was just going to ask if we thought it would be if we could get it on like the Twitter and social media and stuff to like, hey, come do the survey. Would it be a sensible approach, do you think, as far as like helping people know how much, which modules and states that they use? Because you could use a grep command, relatively simple, and just like type grep to count and stuff, and you could give them a pretty reasonable like shell one-liner to say, hey, this is how you can find out which ones you use the most.
Yeah, I think that's great. If
Oh.
let's collaborate on a survey, and if you want to give us that piece, I think that'd be great. I'm happy to start a survey and a forms, and then if I could have a couple people collaborate with me on the wordsmithing of it. You
can help with that.
decorators, thank you. And
Yep.
Wayne, if you can give us the shell command, that'd be great. And then I was thinking something else, but it's left. It's in the ether now, so I don't know. We
No
don't
worries.
have to use Google because we also have 2 other platforms too. So if we start doing it on social media, if we wanted to use something more formal, that's fine. I just like the simplicity of Google Forms. People can get to it. That's just me. I can be flexible.
Same. It's easy to cross post from, which I'm all about.
Yep.
I just like that. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll start
So
something.
So Sage will get the ball rolling, Wayne will get the grep command, and Cassandra will offer advice on wordsmithing, and I'm also happy to help with that too from an advisory perspective. So
Cool.
yeah. All right. So yeah, is the way it'll work is they'll join the Zoom. We could also tell them like if they haven't taken the survey to go ahead and take it. So that kind of thing. And then we had talked about like having them choose 3 paths for the Docs Jam. One is that they could dive in with our list of modules and state modules that we've identified and write up how they use it in their context or something like that. And then the second was that they could create issues for documentation stuff that they know is a problem, but nobody's ever opened an issue on it. And then the third is that they could actually work on issues. So, and then we'll probably have a breakout room for each of these 3 paths. And then once they pick it, they're going to join the breakout room for the path. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they'll have like a person inside that that breakout room who will kind of guide them the rest of the way. Is that how it'll work?
That's right. So, Cassandra, have you used the breakout rooms and moderated those?
Once.
Yeah, so you can either assign everybody or you can have Zoom do it for you. There's no sort of in between. And so you'll have to do it manually. And then if anybody leaves, they come back to the main room. So someone will need to stay in the main room to then help them get back to their room that they were in or their path. So even though I like this and I would love to use this functionality, and maybe we should, it is clunky at times. So just FYI.
Would the alternative be to have separate Zoom rooms, like completely separate accounts? Is that the alternative?
That's probably the alternative, and I also don't love that. Also clunky.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we should use the breakout rooms, and it may come to it that at that hour that we're hosting, that there's only so many people and they all want to do this one thing, and so you end up staying in one room or 2, and that's fine. So
okay. And then I imagine we can just work out with whoever volunteers, we can work out like a plan of action for how they will guide the participants from there. And we don't necessarily need to spell it out here. I also need to look at the document you made for the port jam. I need to look at that and feed in any good stuff from that document into this one. So yeah. Anyway, Okay, so does that sound like a good rough plan for now? Anything we
Sounds
would
great.
change? Okay, cool. And I'll take on the action item to build this draft out a little bit better. So,
Okay, it's actually pretty good.
alrighty. I think that's it from my stuff. So we can talk about whatever Derek would like to talk about.
Or actually, I don't really know what else off of those big items. If unless say we were going to talk about the contributing guide, I don't know what other kind of subjects we kind of wanted agenda-wise to talk about.
Yeah, so I think there's definitely the contributing guide, and that's going to take a little bit of a pause as you guys kind of step over into the point release for enterprise, and that's fine. And then we'll pick that back up. We want to try to make that have one source of truth and then make it dynamic and make those better. And so that's kind of where we are right now, but it's still in just a planning phase. And so we will make a smaller scope of that, but then trying to go forward, it will be a little cleaner to contribute to the contributing guide. It's going to be fun. And a little bit of meta. And then one other thing that we're focused on for, excuse me, for magnesium release is to set up, and Bryce, maybe you can even speak to this a little bit, not to put you on the spot, but that we could skip the rest of the test suite if the only changes in a PR into SALT have a change on a documentation file. And I think that can be done at the Jenkins level.
So the hard part is if we have the doc strings in the .py files, it's hard to automatically detect that. It is possible to, if we tag or label something in
if we did off a label.
Yeah, because like it's easy for a human to tell, oh, this is a doc only change, but to do that in an automated way is questionable.
I kind of.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that we could at a minimum at least maybe just do the docs directory, the doc directory, because you're right that the doc strings. So if someone breaks, let's say they break the formatting on accident, it technically would break the module if they
so we'd want to test.
Yeah, so if it's in the doc strings of that PI file, yeah, I agree that those tests could still keep going. I mean, they are anyway, either way at the moment. But if if it is something that's limited to a doc topic file, then it could be path specific, at least to start. We could always evaluate what it would look like at doc strings in the future if we really wanted to.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And I am thinking the same thing, that it's in that docs directory. There is also, I've seen a couple of GitHub actions that are already created that based on the file type, and you can configure that. So if it's in a subdir of docs or something like that in topics, then it will label it, and then we could go off a label as well. Because I don't think we're ready to skip testing on the doc strings right now. I think that would be excluded from this MVP. And that's actually a really good point. I should go put that in there. I'm gonna write myself a note really quickly while I'm thinking.
And that's a good point on the file extensions, is that if it's like .rst or .md, because I mean, if we make changes to the main README and the root to the repo too.
We want it to run a doc. Well, and there is a test suite on docs. I would want that to still run.
Oh yeah, like doc specific, right. Yeah, rather than, hey, we changed the README and the root of the repo, let's now do tests against CentOS 7. You know, that doesn't. But if the doc set of testing for sure, definitely.
Okay, all good things. I think that I asked a couple of people, and I think that just needs to move forward with some details like we're talking about here. And I'll set up a meeting probably, or I'm not sure exactly who. I know who the resource is, but I need to find out what their availability is on when we could meet and talk about that. And I think that it's definitely not soon. And we may be able to do some of that asynchronously. So I don't have a ton of information on that right now. Let me me continue to work on that. But I do have that MVP out there, and I'd like to at least do a couple of things and make it so that it's running a little faster on the doc side of PRs. Yeah, that'd be good. Other things. I don't think I can think of anything else.
There's one thing I suppose I can mention that, and Alan might find this interesting, is that I've been working on this salt sec specific material theme. I have broken out into, I kind of have made a fork of the Sphinx material theme, and it is now in a GitLab repository along with being published to PI. And it's, I mean, I'm right now got some feedback where I'm already going to be reviewing the documentation because it is totally not good, which is, I mean, being a documentation person, and it's not really well set up for people to get started with it as we're starting to use it more internally, that I was going to kind of go through that, fix it up, but it would be available for testing really in any repository, any Sphinx project, as long as like certain conf.py configurations or options are in place. And that's going to keep developing as because we're right now resolving a lot of, it's kind of a big task on the enterprise side right now that I'm working with the documentation team to see about either extending the theme a little bit more or to find best practices around things like how we handle versioning. But because one thing with versioning that I've noticed, so let's say with Salt open and let's say a CVE impacts a particular version or tons of versions, right? And that means past versions. You can't, as far as I know, and I might be wrong with this, we cannot fix documentation for a previous version. It sort of becomes locked at release. It becomes locked so that the changes get either reflected in the master branch or the latest release. Because if, and I don't know if Wayne or others might know, because if something is impacting a previous version, let's say 2 versions ago, and we're like, oh, actually we can't, I don't think we can modify that, if I'm correct.
The answer is sort of. What we have done in the past and can do is cut a docs tag off of it. So basically we go back to the tag and then we fix whatever it is that we need to fix. And then we re-tag it with that version _docs at the end. And you can actually like look for that if you just do git tag grep docs. You'll see an assortment of tags that were docs only releases. So we've done it in the past, especially if like we've just horked something up terribly. And yeah, so it's not ideal, but it is possible, and we've done it and can do it. But there are better ways to do it.
I think it depends who you talk to on the core team, how well that is liked or not liked. There's varying opinions.
But there are some things there, like with the example with a CVE release. Do we have an obligation to put something in those docs and re-release it because it's been changed? That's a question I don't think we've answered, and I don't know if it's even come up. And maybe we don't. I'm not totally sure, but it's available to us. We do limit its use.
Yeah, right now I'm kind of coming up with a strategy for our enterprise stuff, that since our enterprise is at least its own separate docs repo, it's a whole different story. And so we're able to, I'm even thinking that at a specific release, that particular documentation can be archived, as in transitioned to its own subdirectory in the project, because that would mean that it's now at any release at any time, we can modify any version or so like if you had a single PR, it could affect, okay, it's updating the documentation across multiple versions, as opposed to then going, okay, I need to create a PR for this tag to do this. And then also in the main PR doing it to the master branch and etc. And then you can even run into weird things with doc strings because that's in a PI file. And so then would it mean something like the RST for that particular module gets archived at that time because that code isn't changing for that particular version. So I don't know, there's certain ideas I'm having with working at least from the enterprise side that I don't know if it eventually could be, pieces of it could potentially be adopted into the open space, especially with the future of if we split off certain documentation into
Sure.
Its own separate repo.
Yeah, it's
I
something
gotta
that
take
we
off. So take care, y'all.
Bye. It's something
All right.
that we
See
See
ya.
ya.
we wrote down as that we do, and I think that it's kind of like archiving documentation. We say that it's not really available, but it is, and so there's some things to work on there. It seems like we on our support page on our platform support lifecycle, whatever we call it, landing page, we say that the documentation is only available for a certain amount of time for support, even available, but they're out there. You could go find them. And it'd be nice to have an archive. Maybe actually do what we say that we do today. So there's some things. So I did a first draft of a form. I only have 2 questions out there. I sent it to just a few people on this to kind of help me with that. Feel free to make changes there. Yeah, just to let you guys know, I started something. Something I hadn't thought about with Google though is that for them to detail a use case in a Google form we may want a ticket for that actually, because it may get too big, especially if they want to put in screenshots or if they wanted to do, code snippets. We may want to think about that. I hadn't thought about that until I started writing it, and then I was like, maybe we do want to do this in a ticket instead of in a form. Thoughts? We could actually make a template in the Docs Hub repo that's for modules, use cases that ask these questions, and then just point people to that. And we can just hide it when we're not using it.
Could even be a use cases in general template, because it could be that it's a use case that could be documented in one of the topics. Yeah, and I don't know if maybe in the survey there could be some kind
maybe
of
we have a link to a ticket.
Yeah, but if they get stuck, I don't know, if they have to then do more work, like, okay, I'm doing the survey, okay, now it wants me to also open a ticket to then go and detail this stuff. Yeah. I don't know if that could be off-putting, or if because what if they have some use cases? Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question, because there could be cases where we'd want to follow up for more information anyway, because if we want to include their use case in the documentation, but it's not exactly clear for whatever reason, and they don't have an issue and they only had the information in the survey, it's now kind of, I wouldn't say useless data, but if we can't follow up with the person, it would just be feedback that would drop off. Yeah, so maybe I'm kind of thinking that we move towards a ticket, maybe in the Docs Hub repo or somewhere else. I'm open to that. Do you want to think about that just a little bit, Derek, and let me know how I can help? We could actually just take those questions and put it into a template. Totally. Yeah, I think either way, we should have a template for it anyway. I do too. Because post-survey, anytime people have a use case that they want to contribute to or have it included, it would just be cool to have a base template for the future.
Yeah.
Well, and that could probably be what they contribute to as part of the Docs Jam. Like they can open up that template.
Absolutely.
Oh
They
yeah,
could come day of and then use that template. It's one of
that's-
our breakouts, I guess I'll call it.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's what they're actually producing after being in that session. So,
Yep.
yeah,
I
that
think
could
that's
be
a
part of
great
that
idea.
issue breakout room or whatever.
Yep.
For creating new ones. Yeah, that's an excellent idea.
Cool. I think I will create a template then. I'll start that. So you guys can ignore what I sent you.
but we probably still need the survey just to get a sense of which modules are most frequently used still, though, right?
I think that this doc jam's going to give us that inherently. So
Okay. I could
I
see
don't
that.
know if it matters if we do it in a,
So the idea is that
Like a
we'll like
throw
provide
survey.
them with that spreadsheet that you've created, or something like that, some version of that.
or we could just point them to the subdirectory of the modules.
Well,
Here's all
that's
of
too easy, Paige.
them.
I want to make it more complicated.
Oh, you are an engineer. I know
No.
you.
Anyway, so we'll point them to that section of the docs that lists the modules, and have them kind of indicate, like pick a few of them that are their most commonly used, and then they just give us an example of how they use it, you know?
Yeah,
So.
I think that we can still put it in the template, Wayne, of how they could grep and get that and give them a command and say, you know, or if you're curious, here's a shell command for you to get that. And I think that's a good way to go.
Yeah, and that could
still
be one of the
capture
first
that.
steps that they take when they come into that Zoom room. It can be like, hey, run this grep command.
Mm-hmm.
And so that'll tell you what you use the most.
Yep.
And we,
go ahead.
on that note, when we're also just to clarify, when we're talking about modules, technically doc strings do exist for things like execution modules, but also for states.
Yes.
And so they would be two different directory structures. One that's like using states and one that's using execution modules, since they would both have use cases that can overlap, but technically those are two different contribution targets, right?
That's
and so
and I wasn't differentiating. I don't know that we need to, just maybe in the template and grepping. That's fine.
And when talking about the survey, weren't we originally going to ask like 3 questions? Was one,
I don't remember what they were.
One was like what they
it was how do you use it, wasn't it? So, sort of a persona type question, like tell us how you use the modules.
Yeah, one was
and sort of your day-to-day.
Right. I think one was that, persona, what modules you use, and use cases. Would we still want to do the form that says that's looking for that persona and maybe modules that they use, just from an awareness, because then we can start to get an idea of which modules maybe need more attention if a ton of people are using the same modules. And then maybe have a link at the bottom that says here's where you can go to open an issue on it.
I would use one, and whatever we use, let's just use one, because if we start using 2, it gets confusing. It's sort of like we have the wiki, the community wiki, and we have Bevy, and we're sending people to 2 places. And we thought that that was a good idea. Well, we actually were hindered by what Bevy could do, so we needed to use something else. And I wish I had one source of truth. So I would go with one. And if we think that that's a survey, okay, I'm erring on the side of a ticket just because I think that it's not going to, I don't think that I can get enough information out of a survey and follow up. That's just me.
No, actually that's a good point, because technically those same questions could even be involved in that
Absolutely
issue. Because if it's like, here's your use case, it'd be what's your persona, in what module or state what execution module or state module does this impact? Like, do you have a use case for, and what would the use case be? That technically would be the whole survey that you're talking about. So yeah, that makes sense. I agree.
Yeah, I think that we can ask that question about a persona in a way that's, because we're going to say persona and they're going to be like, what? But we don't necessarily want to go too casual and say, tell us about you. But I think we can say something about, can you give us some details about the background of the module that you're using? You know, are you a sysadmin? Are you, you know, doing configuration management? Are you running some automation this way? You know, we could ask that question in a way that starts them to give us a bit more of that use case scenario.
Yeah,
Not exactly sure what that is.
I suppose the use case scenario would reveal their persona, wouldn't it? In a way. Some, not always. Yeah, because if they're like, here's how I use this to configure a networking device as a proxy, then you kind of know, okay, they're a network engineer.
Right. So that's why I had it as two, right? Because at the beginning, Elisa was like, well, we're kind of going to get that from their use case. If they put it in there, because I think what happens sometimes, even when we get issues written, is that we're just asking for more information because there's so much that it could be used for that we all assume that people are using that module and that, you know, that state execution, whatever is happening exactly the way I use it. And sometimes we just need to probe a little more. And I think we could put that in there. So tell us, you know, some background about why you use this use case, and then give us the details of the use case. Is there anything else that you would like to share with us? And those are probably our 3 questions. You know, maybe in there somewhere, a grep. Tell me, Wayne. Okay, cool. Awesome.
I have one question that I should have asked already. So for the docs clinic, how long do we think that needs to run?
Yeah, so I think the clinics that Wayne runs for tests are an hour, but I think we've done longer. And I think that this could be as long as you need to do that. So if you wanted to run through it, you guys, and then tell us, I think that I'm going to need an hour. I'm going to need an hour and a half because I'm also going to need follow-up. That's fine.
He does 2 hours for test clinics, but I just want to know so I can schedule the Zooms for this stuff and then get that stuff promoted. Put it on the community site.
Yeah, do you guys know how long you might need?
It's a good question. I suppose it would be, I mean, if the idea is here's kind of where this documentation gets generated from with these doc strings. Here's how you'd open an issue. Here's how you'd contribute, and here's how you'd then run Sphinx to view it. Maybe that
seems more than an hour.
Yeah, that seems like that could be more than an hour, I suppose.
But I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's an hour and a half or if it's 2 hours. I would say, go ahead.
Is the plan to be more hands-on, or just kind of, because that's I guess that's the thing that I have discovered. It typically takes more time when you're hands-on and you've got people asking questions and you're doing kind of a back and forth. If it's more of just to record it and make it so there's something out here, then it typically doesn't have to be nearly as long. I know with the test clinics, if it's, you know, if there's nobody shows up and I'm just writing tests and talking about how I'm writing the tests, tends to be a lot faster. But when there's like questions and, you know, whatever, eking it out kind of off in the weeds a bit, but so it's, yeah.
So you know what I would do, because this is new, is that if you guys wanted to kind of do an outline of exactly what you would walk through, and then internally, what if we did it, a couple of people together, and kind of walked it through and recorded it as though it's not so much as like asking questions and being hands-on, but as more like a recording and an artifact of this is how you would do it. So we can kind of see how long it would take you guys just to walk through it. And that would actually be, I think, invaluable, just internal to have that.
Totally.
Recording.
I could really use that. So
Me too.
Yes. Also, if people can't make it live to the clinic, then that's a video that we can post and send to them to prepare.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's a great idea.
I think that's the way to go with this. If you guys can carve out, you know, one of you or both of you, whatever you want to do, and carve out a couple of hours one day and just walk it through. And if you want to use one of our pro Zooms to do it, let us know. I'm happy to host that. I'm sure Cassandra is as well.
Yeah,
and
same.
We'll just put it on the calendar and start walking through it and get it recorded, and then that'll give us the time frame. I don't know if you can do that soon. You guys tell us.
And I guess that'd be ideal to Yeah, it is a good idea to do that internally first, because there are certain things I've never ran when contributing to the docs and salt, like that I've seen. I just keep seeing conflicting. And this has to do with also why we want to improve the contributing guide. I keep seeing conflicting things of people going, well, no, this is how you would run. You would want to make sure you build the docs with Knox. And I'm like, oh, I've never built them with Knox before or run these commands. And and so I'm used to using the make command to check it out, but I don't know what else Knox does related to docs and how to just run specifically docs related stuff with Knox. I don't know. And so I would need that.
Either,
So Knox just make sure you have the exact versions that we test with of Sphinx and whatever other pip installs.
Okay, so then Knox would, and you could say specifically docs or like, or what?
Yeah, you can target, there's a Knox target for building the docs that it'll install the right versions of Sphinx and whatever other things, and then build the docs.
Cool. And then I'd be able to view this the Sphinx output in some kind of build directory.
Yeah, it's basically exactly the same, except it does pip installs and a virtual end at the beginning.
Cool. And it would give me like an error if it's like, oh, this particular version of Python or whatever had some kind of weird issue or something. Or okay.
Do we? Sorry to interrupt. Do we have Knox documented? Is it in?
Probably. I know we do at least a little bit. I don't know if it's thoroughly documented.
Where is it? Where do you know it to be? In
somewhere on docs.saltstack.com.
Just like in testing, or?
Let me look. Yes, if you go to topics, development, tests.
Oh.
I'll paste a link.
I gotcha. Okay, I can get there.
And I also see that there's a Salt test suite introduction to link that I just put in chat. So I'll just want to get an idea when I do it where which Knox command to run.
You know, didn't Pedro put it in the last session's chat?
Oh yeah, I copied that. Oh no, he put that in for building the.
That was building
man pages. That was for the
That's right.
man pages specifically, which was probably just another flag very similar to docs-man.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, so I think that we could probably do high level and not do too many deep dive. Would you like to build the Knox? Would you like to build the docs using Knox, sir? On Firefox?
Yep, that's what I would like.
I think that we should have a Dr. Seuss themed doc jam.
There we go.
We have now
all the
discovered
docs
our
have
theme.
to rhyme.
Get the right people here. Let's do some internal rhymes. Yay.
Create some automated tests that it'll fail if it doesn't rhyme properly.
Oh, that's fantastic.
All right, so we're at time here.
We are.
And I got another meeting to go to.
Okay, so you'll have the meeting notes, and then I think we have a few action items. We'll follow up.
Yep, I'll post the meeting notes, and we should be good. So, and you're welcome to add anything if I spaced out and missed something. So.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
Awesome meeting, guys.
Yeah.
All right.
Great. Have a good one,
See ya.
everybody.